You're listening to Radio Cosmos.
All night long.
Bravo! My compliments, little lady.
Commercial!
Break for 30 seconds.
You're now listening to BaaD Radio.
Hello and welcome to BaaD Radio. BaaD stands for Business at a Distance. This is a show about local businesses and business networking. We are here in the News Radio WFLA Orlando studio from 11 a.m. to noon every Sunday. I'm your host, Angela Smerito, and in studio with me we have Melissa Jacob with Striking Brand.
Hello, hello.
Oh, I like that applause.
Nice warm applause.
Mm-hmm. Melissa is our beautiful co-host and our videographer. If you go to baadradio.com, and that's BaaD radio.com, you can see all the previous episodes of the show. We also have a BaaD Radio YouTube channel now, which I'm really trying to get into the habit of promoting. But it's coming together very nicely. So there's all different ways that you can see the previous episodes. And if you go to strikingbrand.com, you can see Melissa's other work, because that is actually her business. In addition to being our co-host, or being a videographer, she also does photography as well. And before we jump into everything, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Ground Up Property Services. The Florida heat is here, so now is the time to get your irrigation system serviced by Ground Up Property Services. Don't wait for your grass to die. Call today, 407-468-4295, or visit groundupinc.net. You can see where the grass is scorched in just different areas. It doesn't have like the cover.
Your front yard?
Cover. Yeah.
Same. Same.
So today, back in studio, I'm super excited to have Brooke Boltz with Boltz Legal in studio.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and she brought a guest. So please welcome Dr. Angela Walker with Angel Walk Chiropractic. So we got all sorts of applauses going on over here.
I heard that sharp end and restart. New guest.
Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. And I was telling you earlier, I'm like, Angela Walker. Love the name. You know, it's so easy to pronounce.
A little biased.
Yeah. Well, growing up, did you ever go by Angie?
Never.
I grew up as Angie. So when I moved to Orlando, I just got tired of telling people to call me Angie, and so it just turned to Angela. And so when we're with the family, my people will be like, Angie this, and my husband's like,
Even your husband?
Tom
Really?
Paul, yeah. I mean, he understands it now. It's been 25 years, but you know what I mean. So it's like that change. Any other nicknames?
Angel.
Oh.
So if someone ever called me Angie, because there were a couple of people in my life along the way that have called me that. But if they call me Angie, most people that know me know that they don't know me.
Yeah.
Right.
I know what you mean.
I'm more of an Angela.
Right.
It's like if anybody calls me Missy, I'm like, you're not my friend.
You don't know
me.
Did you grow up? Did you grow up Missy?
No, I hate that nickname. So if anybody calls me that, it's like,
Well, see, if anybody calls me Angie, then I know they do know me from like growing up. So anyway, glad to have you guys back in. So Brooke, what have you guys been up to? I know you got something cooking. What is it? What do you got going on?
Where do I start? I'm working on another music video.
That's what I was talking about. I want to hear about it.
Yeah.
Can you give a little teaser?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just finished the audio music of it, and it's going to be a music parody to Me Too by Meghan Trainor.
Okay, so another Meghan Trainor song. Fun.
We're filming actually June 24th, and so we should have the video ready to promote and go live in early July.
That's so much fun. Those are it puts you in such a different category. So let's talk about the firm a little bit. So the last time we were here, you had just recently purchased a building, I believe. So everything's going good with that, and you're focused primarily on personal injury, correct?
I am still doing personal injury and homeowners insurance claims as my primary focus areas.
Right. Well, let's talk about the homeowners. What has changed with that? Last year, I think we pounded the whole SB2A and all that sort of thing. So I'm actually kind of happy that what's going on with that. I meant like
things have settled down a little bit. There's some good news in regards to premiums.
Okay. I'd love good news.
There have been 9 insurance companies who applied for a rate reduction this year. Some of them are insurance companies you have never heard of, but so if you're with one of the big companies, those are not one of the 9 who've asked for a reduction. But
There's
Well,
also
What does that mean, though? They ask for a reduction.
a premium reduction, meaning they're charged to the homeowner.
Mhm.
They've asked to charge less
Mhm.
for their monthly payments.
Okay.
So 9 insurance companies. Again, it's 9 that are not the biggest companies,
Mhm.
and some of them are ones that even I who
Work in that industry.
have not heard of. But
Mhm.
it's still a step in the right direction.
Mhm.
And then there were another 9 or 10 who applied to keep their prices the same
Okay.
this next year. So no reduction and no
No
increase.
Right.
So in contrast to prior years where it was just up on the prices, now it is at least several insurance companies are leveling out or even
Oh,
reducing
that is
prices a
good
bit.
news.
And then there's a list of brand new insurance companies who are opening up in Florida. That's probably 7 to 10. I can't remember the exact
Really?
number. Brand new insurance companies opening up, which is another good sign because we know a few years ago everyone was leaving. So now we've got some new people, new companies coming in.
Well, I know the situation has been bad because I think I want to say out of 9 out of 10 people are using Citizens now because that was like kind of one of the only options that was available.
Right.
I love the idea that there's going to be some other options though.
Right. Yes. So with options comes leveling out of the prices for the premiums. So things are seeming to move in the right direction, at least in Florida.
No, that's where we are. So that's good to know. It makes me happy. Well, thank you for the update on that. Because, like I said, I've just heard nothing but doom and gloom, and just
Right.
in my own personal situation, trying. We were due. We got a new policy. Then, like within 60 days, they canceled it because of something, and you know what I mean. It was just
Right.
one mess after another. And now we're with
Right.
Citizens, but. Am I
Right.
super happy where I'm at? No, not
Not so much.
really. Not super happy, but you got to have insurance if you have a mortgage, right?
Right.
Right.
So anyway, well, that's good news. Let's move on to more fun things. So on the personal injury side, everything's going good. I love your little things in BNI. Brooke always has a really, really good way for her 45-second. You know, when you can stand up and do your thing. It's always memorable. I think the last time I saw her, she brought in a nasty old banana peel.
Fun.
Well, I'm glad you remembered that. Thank you.
And I did.
Nobody knows what you're talking about, by
Tell
the
us-
way.
yeah.
I
Tell
have
us-
no
tell us
idea
what you
what's
did,
going
Brooke.
on.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Okay.
So BNI is a networking group where you talk about your business. So just for anybody who doesn't know that, so you each get to stand up and kind of give like a spiel about your business, and you want to do something kind of memorable. All right.
Yes.
There. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
The elevator pitch.
Yeah.
There you go. And so the one that you're referring to is I talked about the banana peel theory that we learned about, or I learned about in law school, which relates to slip and falls. So in a slip and fall case, you don't have to just prove that you slipped and fell on something. You have to prove it was there for a long enough time that the landowner knew or should have known about it and cleaned it up. So just having a picture of a puddle of water doesn't tell you how long it was there. And so if that's all you have, we cannot prove that the landowner knew or should have known about it.
Negligent.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So the banana peel theory is just an example of ways that you can prove that things were there for a long time. So if the banana peel is what you slipped on and it's fresh and clean and yellow, then it may not have been there, probably had not been there very long. But in contrast, if it's a black, dirty banana peel, like what I brought to show as an example.
God.
In her Ziploc bag.
Yeah. And if it's black and dirty, then that's evidence it could have been there for a long enough time that the landowner should have known it was there and cleaned it up.
See that there? That's
There
a
we
perfect
go.
example. But I understand that, and I remember that. And I also remember the one that you did with the marbles. But I can see the clock going on here. I used that. I used the marble one. We'll talk about the marble one when we get back from break. Everybody stay tuned for more BaaD Radio.
Welcome back to BaaD Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back. This portion of the show is brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore. Summer is here, and so it's time for a trip to Premier Couple Superstore. They have a huge selection of lingerie, shoes, toys, games, love oils, and a ton of great gifts. 5009 South OBT, or shop online at premiercouples.net, because a couple that plays together stays together. I love it. I love it. All right, so we were talking with Brooke Boltz with Boltz Legal, and she brought a guest today. So we also have Dr. Angela Walker in studio with us today. But before break, we were talking about BNI, which is which is a big networking organization, and Brooke and I are in the same chapter. And each week when you go, you get to do like a 45-second. They call it elevator pitch, but this is much more than an elevator pitch, because you're getting who you are, what you do, and what's a good referral, this kind of thing. So Brooke has always been very creative, living in the personal injury and attorney space, and like getting her point across on how to make things work. And so I talked about what she did with the marbles, because I've actually used that. What's the difference between like going with a big, huge firm? You know, you have big billboards that say size matters and things like that. So give us the how that went, the marble theory.
Yeah, so the marble analogy is basically that those law firms have a lot of attorneys, sometimes dozens or hundreds of attorneys. And some of those attorneys are tremendous. Those law firms have high budgets to be able to hire really tremendous attorneys. And so they have a percentage of their law firm that is just really top-notch, really high-level attorneys. But then, like any business, not everybody is a superstar. And so you'll have a percentage of the attorneys who are maybe in the 80th percentile. Still good attorneys, but just not top notch. And then you'll have a percentage of those attorneys who are average, 50th percentile. And then you'll have a group of attorneys that are kind of below average.
I call them, mediocre.
Yes. And then you'll have some that are really just not good at all and probably won't last the long term, but
they're there right now.
They're there for now.
Right.
And so each of those tiers of attorneys represents a certain number of marbles. And so I put into a vase all the marbles with all the different colors. And then when a client calls in and they're getting assigned to an attorney, someone puts their hand in the vase and pulls out a marble, and that's who's assigned to you as your attorney. And you don't have really the control or even the knowledge of whether you're being assigned a top tier lawyer at the firm or one of the bottom tier that might not last very long, or maybe just a mediocre lawyer. You don't have that control, and you don't really even know the background or experience of who's getting assigned to your case.
So what's the difference between that and your law firm?
Well, my law firm is just me. So
you got the top of the top, and then that's your only option.
I'm the only personal injury lawyer in the firm. I have another associate who works with me, but she works in the homeowner's insurance side of things. And so if someone calls my office, they are getting me and only me. And even with the attorney who works with me, I still oversee every single case, and I'm involved in the decision making and the handling of every single case. So there is one marble in my base.
Right. And it's a top-notch marble.
And it's a personal touch. It's more personable.
Right.
And a lot of patients that I have dealt with tend to prefer a smaller firm that they can actually contact their attorney and hear from their attorney instead of not hearing from them until the end of their case when I finalize them.
Right.
So I think that personal touch just really stands out, and it makes all the difference.
And you worked, before you had your own firm, you worked for a couple different firms before that. Were they large firms like the ones that you're talking about? So how was that different? Like how she was saying, the personal touch, like at those larger firms, did you guys just not, it wasn't part of the day-to-day to reach out as many times? Or
Sure. So I worked at a very large firm, one of the largest firms in the state, but we were on the defense side of things, representing the insurance companies. So things could have been a little bit different, but the way cases were assigned there is new case comes in, they look at what type of case it is, and then they have a number of different available lawyer options. They look at the venue to see, well, is it in Central Florida or South Florida? Because we have different offices.
Gotcha.
So they would look and say, okay, this is Orlando case. This is a personal injury case. We've got a dozen lawyers in Orlando who could handle this. Who's got availability to take on a new case? Is there any unique factors on this case that would make it that one attorney would be better suited for it? And is there any specific requests from the insurance company that they only want to work with certain lawyers or things like that?
Okay,
So
yeah.
they look at a few criteria and then they'd assign it. But from the client perspective, the insurance company who was referring the case, many times they probably did not know who was going to be assigned the case.
They don't
until
like they
find
don't
out.
have any say so. And then you also mentioned something about with the larger firms, lots of times they get just like pinballed around.
Right. There is a lot of turnover in the law firm world in general. And the bigger the firm, the more people who work there, it seems that there would be more turnover in general. So cases can get moved from person to person if someone leaves the firm.
Oh, I don't even like it when I'm at a restaurant and they change shifts and I get let alone like something important like this.
Yeah.
Well, because like you said, it's almost like they have to repeat the whole thing over again.
I actually had someone call our firm recently who was looking to leave a large law firm for that very reason. They had been with that firm for a couple months, and in that time said that they had been reassigned 4 or 5 times.
3? I was going to say at least like 3 times.
Dang.
They can end up with 3 different case managers.
Right.
That's
they were reassigned
insane.
several times, and each time they had to retell their story and felt like there was no continuity, no one really taking ownership of the case and seeing it through.
Do you get a lot of those people that come to you after that?
I definitely get a good number of them who are unhappy with just
And you're like, okay, you just have to tell the story one more time to me,
Right.
and then that's going to be it.
right.
I hate that.
Right.
Well,
And not only does that affect the client for you, patient for me, it affects me also as the doctor because every time I call, I too have to talk to a different person
Geez, I didn't even think
about their
that.
case. Yes. And then sometimes if they're towards the end of their case and there's been a switch, it's like you have to carry them all the way through. It's like you got to bring them up to speed as to where this person is. And
Do you have to
they
redo
really,
all the paperwork? and
don't
everything?
have to redo all the paperwork, but the history of the case and where the person is medically, trying to get them to maximum medical improvement. We call it MMI.
Okay.
That's when I would usually finalize someone and turn them back over to Brooke, and Brooke would actually, finish out or settle out their case. But if I have to keep talking to a different person every time that's helping to manage this case,
Is that person getting billed per hour?
I'm not
Not
sure.
really.
I'm not
Okay.
sure
I was going to be
how
like,
that
oh my
works.
gosh, if they got to like just pay that money, like to tell the story over and over again, that would be crazy.
No, we in the personal injury world are paid a contingency fee, which is a percentage of the outcome.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So it's really not
Like an hourly thing, like that's criminal law or something else, right?
right. There is a scenario in which there could be hourly charges if, let's say, it's a unique scenario with if you win the trial and you're now being entitled to attorney's fees, then you would bill for your time, and the judge would determine how many hours were reasonable to have spent on the case. But that's like a 1%.
Right. So that doesn't really apply here.
Right.
Really.
In most cases, it's not going to be an hourly charge. It's just we get a percentage of the outcome.
Yeah. Well, we're going to run to break in just a few seconds here. And so what I want to do when we get back is talk about the synergy between you two. So everybody stay tuned for more BaaD Radio coming up.
Welcome back to BaaD Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back, and this portion of the show is brought to you by Frogger's Grill and Bar. Looking for a place to go with friends or meet new ones? Then you're looking for Frogger's Grill and Bar. And don't miss out on Frogger's amazing menu where everything is fresh, never frozen. And with 4 great locations, there is bound to be one near you. Oviedo, Mount Dora, Apopka, and Altamont Springs. Frogger's. Hoppin' with food and fun. It cracks me up. We went to Frogger's yesterday in Apopka and for their $7 burger. And
yummy.
it was just insanely good. And it's like I had to cut it in half because I'm like, if I eat the whole thing, I'm going to make myself sick. So I had to cut it in half and put the other half and bring it for leftovers.
I would cut it in half and then still eat both halves. That's what I would
Guilty.
do.
Yeah. But it's such a good deal because it's not just that it's so much food, it's so much good food. And so $7 burger days on Wednesdays, Frogger's, guys.
I'll remember that.
So we're here with Brooke Boltz with Boltz Legal and Dr. Angela Walker with Angel Walk Chiropractic. And before break, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about the synergies between the chiropractor and the personal injury attorney. So let's talk a little bit about how the process works with how your two businesses work together.
Sure. I can start.
Yeah, start.
Okay. For many of my clients, their primary injury is to their neck and back.
And this is primarily auto accidents, correct?
Yes. In auto accidents, but even in slip and falls and other types of injuries, just a lot of personal injury cases relate to neck and back injuries.
Okay.
And so when you look at the different medical providers available for those type of injuries, chiropractors really have the most tools available to give hands-on treatment.
Okay.
A lot of other type of medical professionals focus on medications or injections or surgery, and sometimes those things aren't needed, or sometimes those things aren't needed yet until first other options are contemplated. So for me, when I'm looking at who is best suited to put eyes on the patient initially and try to help them get better, chiropractors tend to be who is best when it relates to neck and back injuries.
Okay.
Yes. I would agree. It is one of the main things that we focus on. However, we do actually have patients who are in auto accidents that may have a concussion and or may have shoulder issues due to seatbelt or knee issues from hitting the dashboard. Or they even roll their ankle as they're pressing on the brake, trying to brace for impact. You know, they can roll it. So I personally deal with other types of injuries, extremity, what we would call an extremity injury. But Brooke is correct when I think that the synergy between the attorney and the chiropractor is very important because, you know, first and foremost, I'm the one that's going to make sure that their health is better and that they are getting, you know, taken care of and that they come out of the accident with as minimal, like a non-invasive
you don't want to cut
treatment
them up.
or care, you know, than sending them, you know, straight into like a surgical type of situation or what
Do you find people that are in auto accidents go to you first or to Brooke first? Because
it depends.
Right.
Sometimes if it's someone that I know, they're going to call me first, and then I would refer them to the best.
But if the referrals go
attorney.
back and forth, though, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes they call the attorney first, and sometimes they call the chiropractor first.
Right.
I've heard statistics that I don't know where these come from, but I've heard that 90% of people call an attorney before a doctor. And I don't have any way to verify that or know if that's true, but that's what I've heard.
Right. Well, like I said, I was trying to establish. Like you said, sometimes they come to you and you refer here, and then you refer back to that one.
If they don't have an attorney, I can say, I can, you know, offer or, you know, tell you someone that I know is a really good attorney. I can help you find someone, you know, to help you with the case. Other than that, the attorney is going to send the person to me.
Do you think that people are still scared to call an attorney because they don't understand how the
I
process
think a lot
works?
of people are. I think if I didn't know Brooke, I would automatically, you say something about an attorney or a lawyer, already I'm thinking I'm getting billed hourly.
I know,
I
me
have
too.
No idea how things work. I just that's, I guess, just what's out in just society. Like if you aren't familiar with it, you
Right.
think it's expensive and you're going to get billed for every single second you talk to them.
That's kind of what I think like a lot of people think
Mhm.
too. So, but that's not the case with
Yeah.
personal injury, right?
Right. We operate on a contingency fee, meaning that we take a percentage of the outcome of the case. So if there's no recovery, there's no payment. So we only get paid if we accomplish a settlement or a recovery for you. And if we don't, then we don't get paid.
And it's important for people to understand that you need to seek care and you need to seek an attorney like as soon as the accident happens. There is a 14-day rule.
There's
where
the clock ticking, right?
There's a clock ticking where you need to see at least a chiropractic physician basically is looked at as a primary care physician. You don't need a referral or anything to come to me. And I can basically be that doctor on record that you've seen someone within the first 14 days after or following your accident.
So let's talk about what is that 14-day contingency? Where does that come from?
It comes from the PIP statute.
Okay, which is
627.
Oh, it's okay, girl. No,
737.
we're not gonna be able to
736.
remember any of that.
736, I think.
Nobody
anyone
look it
wants to
up.
Yeah, just Google PIP statute.
Yeah, there you go.
Florida.
I can't. I used to write that statute down every single day, so I'm disappointed in myself.
Oh, don't be.
Anyways,
We'll put it in post.
the PIP statute says that Florida drivers have mandatory PIP coverage, which is $10,000 of medical benefits available if you're in a car accident to pay for your medical bills.
Okay, so anybody who has auto insurance has PIP.
Correct.
By law.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
It's mandatory. If you have it, if you have coverage, you have it.
Okay.
So if you're in a car accident, you have that $10,000 of medical.
And it doesn't matter who's the fault in the accident.
Does not matter.
Okay.
Every single injured person, if you have insurance coverage for yourself and your vehicle, you will be entitled to this coverage.
And that PIP applies only to you, not to, like, if I got into an auto accident and it was my fault, my PIP is not going to cover the person that I hit. The
Correct.
PIP is for
No.
my protection,
If
for
there
my
was,
health.
correct, it's the first payer would be your own personal PIP pays for your own bills. There is a scenario where if the other person was a pedestrian, they didn't own a vehicle, there could be a possibility your PIP could pay for them if they didn't have it because they didn't own a vehicle and didn't live with a resident relative who owned a vehicle.
My gosh,
So
you're
it's-
smart.
So it's a little bit complicated, but generally speaking, if you own a vehicle and you have insurance, your PIP is going to pay
Right.
for you and any of your resident relatives.
So that
If they live with you.
Okay, so that $10,000 has to cover everybody that was in the car, if they're
No,
family.
each person gets 10,000.
Yes. Each
Aye.
person gets 10,000, and a lot of patients, it depends. Some patients like that. Some patients don't. They're like, it's not my fault. I don't want to have to pay. Why is it coming out of my insurance? Well, you're already paying for this
Because
under
they're worried about the
under your
premiums going.
coverage.
They're worried about their premiums going up
Well,
if they use it. Does that
yes.
happen? though?
Yes. Well, you've made the claim already. You've
Right.
already talked to your insurer to notify them of the accident. So they already know about the accident. Your points are gonna be added regardless. So you might as well go ahead and use the coverage that you've been paying for that comes along with your insurance.
Right.
And no, you cannot use someone else's PIP. Even if it was their fault, you have to use your own PIP insurance.
Right.
And that's also how I get paid as well.
It's through the PIP. But if they
Yes.
don't if they don't come and see you within 14 days, they have forfeited that money. No,
Exactly.
there's no way to go back.
No
Pretty
going
much.
back.
No going back. So you hear that, people? If you're in an auto accident attorney, you need to go see a chiropractor, preferably our lovely Dr. Angela here. So we're going to run to break, and when we get back, we're going to continue this conversation. So stay tuned for more BaaD Radio.
Welcome back to BaaD Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back. And this portion of the show is brought to you by Liberty Property Inspections. Your home is one of your most important investments, so don't trust it to just anyone. libertypropertyinspections.net, helping you protect your investment. Also like to thank some additional sponsors for making BaaD Radio a reality. Fear No Storm with BoltzLegal.com. Crazy Muscle Nutrition, Imbalanced Bodywork, Forge IT Consulting in Body Street in Winter Park. So, like I said, I'm very happy to have our sponsor, Boltz Legal, here today, and Dr. Angela Walker with Angel Walk Chiropractic. And during the break, you mentioned your personal touch. So you're not a chiropractor that's like the turn and burn. It's like, let's get as many people in and out to get that volume going. So
yeah, they call it like crack 'em and rack 'em.
I like
Kind of funny though.
I know. That is kind of fun. That's pretty witty.
I've done PI for many years, for like over 10 years now, and I've actually worked with the larger firms, or not firms, the larger practices where you have an ortho, you have rehab, you have chiropractic. And so I've worked alongside orthopedic surgeons. And there is a time for injections. There is a time for surgery. However, to take the more conservative route in the beginning is definitely what I would recommend. And it's typically what works when it comes to PI cases.
But with chiropractor, you can kind of help people that are having like that really acute pain. Like you can give them some relief.
Yes.
Almost immediately. Right?
Immediately.
See, I think that's so important.
Yes. And then you would have to make sure that you're consistent with your care. And attorneys, of course, want you to be compliant as well for your case. But it's more important for the healing, because you're not going to heal properly if you come one time this week and then I see you one time next week. With the way muscles and ligaments and tendons work, they're like very strong rubber bands. Once they go to that end range where they're snapped in a whiplash, for example, once they get stretched out and then they come back, it's like they stay there and they don't want to let go. So the only way to get them back into their normal position and to help them stay that way is to a consistent amount of care. And that's the reason why you come to the chiropractor more consistently when you've had an injury, because that's corrective care versus wellness or maintenance care.
I was wondering too, because I've heard about people saying, it was just a fender bender. I snapped my neck a little bit. I'm not going to go. But then later they've developed like something, and it's already been passed. They've missed their PIP, but then they have these other problems. So how come sometimes it takes a little while for things to show up?
Typically, you're in shock. You have a lot of adrenaline in your body.
Yeah.
And so when you're under shock, all that adrenaline will kind of calm the pain receptors. But then you go home, and that night or the next day, it's like wham, you get hit like a ton of bricks.
That makes sense with the adrenaline.
Yes. And then you have this like really naggy, aching soreness that just will not, it's unrelenting. It just won't go away. And that's typically when people show up in my office. But some people understand that this is going to happen, so they will come sooner than most. And I think that, one of the things that sets me apart from where I've worked previously is that I, too, like Brooke, have a smaller, practice. So you're not inside with 15 people at one time trying to, have your therapeutic exercises and see the chiropractor and get all of your modalities like e-stim and ultrasound.
I brought my daughter to one in Lake Mary, and it was kind of chaotic in there. There was so much stuff going on, like over here and over here and over here. Wasn't a huge fan.
Yes. And, sometimes you have like older men in there with like young teenage girls that are working
that's
out,
not happening. Look at
and,
we're all like,
that are working out. So I have more of a private kind of boutique-ish VIP setting, so that you get a lot of one-on-one care. And it's people love it. It's a very calm environment.
Where are you located at again?
I actually am in Winter Park.
Okay.
And
a nice general area to just about everything. Winter Park was positioned.
Yes. If anyone knows where the Crealdi building is there.
Okay, yep.
And there's a
cannot.
Crealdi Art School that's
Mhm.
like right behind our business
Mhm.
complex. So
I'm like relative to Rollins College. How about there?
I would be a little east of Rollins.
Okay.
So east of Lakemont.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And there's a
Yep.
big Publix and the
That's a medical area. There's a lot of
yeah,
medical places right
lot-
around there.
Yeah, I have like I have neurologists. I have
Uh-huh.
and there's an Advent Health Hospital there,
Absolutely.
and there's a lot of
That's an excellent location. Good
yes,
for you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So have you seen some people that have waited too long and you're like, oh,
Oh.
I got into an accident last year and now they're starting to see the problems.
Yes, I've had people wait and never get care.
Are they all men? It's men, isn't it? It's the
And
men.
I will
men,
tell you
men,
about a
men.
man, a male.
Sorry, guy.
patient.
Our producer in
He's
there.
not even paying attention.
I'll tell you about a male patient that he went just to pick up his trash, and his back went out.
Oh,
And
but he had been in an accident.
he had been in an accident previously, maybe like a year or so before, and never had any care. And then there's also a young lady that I've had before that didn't have any care, and maybe she was a little bit longer than that, but all she did was reach for her laptop off of her coffee table to put it on her lap, and her neck went out.
That's some old people stuff. Because I started doing that too.
Have you-
You know what I mean?
She wasn't old. She was in
Really?
her 20s.
Dang.
Yeah.
Maybe it's genetics because the stuff like that started happening to me. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, okay.
No, I'm down.
I'm no spring chicken.
I got a question for you. Maybe you can help answer this. Have you guys ever like been driving or doing something like that and you turn your neck a certain way
Oh,
and
yeah.
it burns?
Oh,
Oh,
burn?
yeah.
What is that burn? That's
Muscles, it could be nerves.
Uh-huh.
You could have an impingement or a pinch of the nerve from the disc in between the bones or the vertebrae.
uh-huh.
And
Mm.
that pinch, because you have a misalignment,
Mhm.
is what actually causes the nerves to either have like a little radiating pain
Mhm.
or numbness or burn. or-
Have you guys
yeah.
never had that where you like jerked your head a certain way and you felt it burn?
I don't
No.
have a burn, but sometimes you can feel like,
Uh-huh.
have like a little ouch because you turn too hard.
Yeah. No, that's happened to me numerous times, but it is an old person
Yeah.
thing because it didn't happen when I was younger.
That's funny.
Oh.
So when you do, because I've had a personal experience with this, getting into a car accident and then working with Brooke and seeing a chiropractor. I know with the 14 days, you're supposed to see someone medically.
Mhm.
What is the benefit of seeing a chiropractor versus other sort of medical professions?
Going to your primary care.
Oh, well, you could go to your primary care, but seeing the chiropractor actually has, like she said, more experience in dealing with auto injuries or personal injuries. Also, if you go to the hospital, most of the time they're just going
Send
to
you to
tell
a
you
chiropractor.
they're going to tell you to see
Go see a
me,
chiropractor.
and they're just going to tell you that you have a sprained strain,
Uh-huh.
which most people do. It's a musculoskeletal injury.
Right.
They're only going to give you some ibuprofen and a muscle relaxer.
Right.
And they're going to charge you like $3,000
Oh.
because they're going to take a CAT
than that.
scan
So
or
there,
something like that.
That's a good enough reason for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So go
So
ahead. and-
there you go. 3,000 or 4,000
Yeah.
of your PIP is right off, and
Right.
you don't have that money to like really get the amount of time of care that you need. Typically, I can get a personal injury patient through their treatment
Right.
plan because there is a protocol to
Right.
this.
Well, go ahead and
I
don't mean to cut you off, but I'm looking at that clock.
Yeah.
So
We wanna get
go
your
ahead,
information.
go ahead and give
Between 2
all-
to 3
yeah.
minutes, 2
Yeah.
to 3 months.
Go ahead and give everybody your contact information.
Okay, you can find me, of course, on Instagram at AngelWalk04. And I also have a business page on Facebook at Angel Walk Chiropractic. And my phone number, direct number, is 954-658-6414.
All right, Brooke.
BoltzLegal.com or Boltz Legal at all the social media.
Thank you so much, you guys. Have a great week, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.